Do not fall for it. Just don't fall for it, okay? Please. Good morning, 6:05 on a Friday. It's great to have you here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. If you are a Jackson County, Missouri resident, do not fall for this little dog and pony show that Frank White, the county executive, and Gail McCann-Beatty are trying to put on. They have completely disregarded the Missouri State Tax Commission that said they had to roll back the assessments to a maximum of 15% in 2023. What did Frank White decide yesterday? What did his letter to the legislature say yesterday? First sentence: in a few moments, my office will publicly announce that residential property assessment increases in Jackson County for 2025 will be limited to no more than 15%. Dude, that is not what the Missouri State Tax Commission required you to do. The Missouri State Tax Commission told Frank White and told Jackson County you had to limit 2023 assessments 2 years ago to 15%. That's when people got royally screwed. That's when homeowners in this county, many of you, wondered whether or not you could stay in your homes because your assessments went up 50, 100%, and obviously that did a major, major number on your property taxes. And Frank's like, don't worry, we got it for 25, okay? We'll limit the screw job on you in 2025. Well, how many of you are holding the bag from 2023 and saying, hold on a second here. I'm still trying to figure out what happened 2 years ago. I'm still trying to figure out how to stay in my home because of what you guys did 2 years ago. And now you're coming back and you're saying, hey, don't worry. Going forward, we're only going to screw you a little. We still don't have a great process in place. We still are largely run by wildly incompetent individuals, but it won't be as bad next time. That was not the order from the Missouri State Tax Commission. I cannot believe the audacity. I thought Frank might either say, 1, we're not going to comply, or 2, we will comply. Instead, it was even worse. I mean, at least if he said, I'm not complying, I would appreciate the honesty. You know, like there's something about that from a politician where I can say, you know what, like kind of like Trump, you know, like Trump will just say, hey, I don't agree with that. Pound sand. And here's why. And here's what I'm doing next. Frank just says, you know what, I won't comply. But he tries to make it look like he's complying with something when he's not complying with anything. The Missouri State Tax Commission said nothing about 2025 assessments. Their requirement was to the county to say, you've got to roll back 2023 assessments to a maximum of 15%. And he thinks, frankly, that you, the resident of Jackson County, are dumb enough to fall for this trick. That's the only interpretation that I can come to here. I think about it, you know, when it comes to like raising toddlers, and they say, don't worry, I won't jump over the couch next time. It's like, no. No, we're talking about the here and now. You just did what I told you not to do. Don't talk to me about next time. Talk to me about now. Frank White is that toddler. That's what he is. He doesn't want to talk about the now. He's not interested in the now. And the way that this letter was written yesterday was so insulting to anybody with common sense who has been dealing with this Jackson County drama and nonsense, for lack of a better word, for the better part of 2 years now. It's crazy. So we got some reaction here from some of the county lawmakers. And listen, you know our guy Sean Smith on the legislature. We're going to try to get him on this morning just to check in for a couple of minutes here on the show on this very topic. But even like Manny Abarca, Manny is obviously very liberal. He's been right on this issue. A broken clock is right twice a day. And he's been pretty tough on Frank White and this administration. Part of that is because he wants Frank's job, but neither here nor there. He's been right on this issue. But he told Fox or KCTV5 something yesterday, and I was like, nope. You're not going to get away with this.
I think this is vindication for taxpayers for at least 25 and 26. It's also a sign to say that the 23 lawfulness is very much in question if he's taking this position now for 2025.
Well, he's right about that. The lawfulness of 2023 is still in question. But this is not vindication for anybody. It's not. Like, if you're telling people that the max increase that your home can have on an assessment basis is 15% for 2025 right now, but if people still have wildly out of whack assessments from 2 years ago, it's not a vindication. It's not. There is no vindication here for taxpayers. Vindication would have been righting the wrongs of 2 years ago. This is the antithesis of vindication. This is Frank playing the system and basically telling the Missouri State Tax Commission to go pound sand and also telling the resident of Jackson County to go pound sand. There is zero vindication here for Jackson County residents. And that's the most frustrating part. And if you are a Jackson County resident, even if you haven't gotten screwed in this whole process, I mean, you have just got to be at your wit's end with what's going on here in your county. I know people firsthand who have left. They've just gotten up and gone, and they've said, I cannot trust this county anymore. I can't deal with this county anymore. And I don't know how much longer I can afford to live in this county right now. That's what's happening in real time. On the text line, Pete, they tried to raise mine 400% 2 years ago. That's on the text line from 2626. That's nuts. I mean, we heard some of the horror stories over the last 18 to 24 months. Many of you got it figured out. Many of you were able to obviously lower those numbers. But there are a lot of people who may have gotten their numbers lowered, but they're not even where they're supposed to be, right? They're still totally out of whack. And the county, as the state now has confirmed, handled all of this in a manner that was not legal. And that's the main point. Do you work for the government or does your government work for you? And that's the broader conversation here. You have so many people in government who believe that you work for them. And it's not just true in Jackson County. Heck, you've got this thing over in Overland Park, right? Where I guess there's a Fortune 500 company that's now interested in taking over the Spring campus. And the city of Overland Park is calling it Project Turtle. Because, yeah, they could not tell their residents who they're going to give massive property tax abatements to take over Spring campus. They could not share that with, the people who technically employ them, the taxpayer. They couldn't do such a thing.
Well, they're on an order to slow roll.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's what they want to do.
Slow roll the turtle.
Yeah. And they're big fans of Entourage, I guess, with Project Turtle. That's the only conclusion I could come to there. But you're seeing this across state line. It's getting worse across the country. And as much as we talk about, obviously, the government in Washington, D.C. and what's happening there, you are seeing a flexing at your local levels of government that you've never seen before. Right here in Kansas City, and it's happening all over the country, where municipalities and counties in particular, even more so than states, are just beating their residents over the head with increased taxes, with less transparency, and it's not exclusively Democrats. There's a lot of Republicans who are part of this as well, who are just not interested in being fully transparent with their people, looking out for the best interests of their residents. And it's happening in not just urban areas, but you're talking about a lot of suburban areas as well around America, where it's just getting untenable. And Jackson County right now is a prime example of that. 913-408-7957, 614 on a Friday morning on KCMO. We will have Charlie Gasparino, Fox Business Network, coming up at 7:05 as Trump and Fed Chair Jerome Powell continue to go at it. That will be a good conversation less than 1 hour away. And your final chance today for Kid Rock tickets. He'll be at T-Mobile tomorrow night, 7:45 here on KCMO and 10:45 with Kevin Keatsman. Coming up, Another loss for DOGE. We'll tell you what it was next on 95.7 FM. All they've got are the judges. I mean, that's it. And they're going to play that thing as long as they possibly can. 6:20 on a Friday morning. Good morning. It is good to be here with you on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Of course, a Good Friday as well. So yesterday, a federal judge imposed new restrictions on DOGE. This came last night, limiting its access to Social Security systems that hold personal data on millions of Americans. This was done by U.S. District Judge Ellen Hollander, and the preliminary injunction in the case was brought by a group of labor unions and retirees who allege DOGE's recent actions violate privacy laws and present massive information security risks. Hollander had previously issued a temporary restraining order. The injunction does allow DOGE staffers to access data that's been redacted or stripped of anything personally identifiable if they undergo training and background checks. So this is not the most egregious thing. It's not. I still think DOGE can get plenty of its work done without the information that this judge is telling them they can't have. I'm also fine with these DOGE staffers going through some background checks and maybe a little bit of training. But I find it hysterical because it's Friday. I'm not going to sit here and be fire and brimstone on a Friday. So I find it more hysterical that people continue to believe that these DOGE staffers are trying to steal your grandma's Social Security check. I would just ask them politely to watch the interview of the DOGE staffers who were on with Brett Baer on Fox News. Maybe that was, 2 weeks ago? And realize that these are some of the most successful people in the country. You obviously have Elon Musk. You have, entrepreneurs who founded major companies in America like PayPal. You have multiple billionaires involved. I know that some of you think that every rich person is bad. I promise you, your wealth does not make you good or bad. Your wealth is irrelevant to what kind of a person you are. There are really good wealthy people. There are not so good wealthy people. And that's true for those in the middle class, and that's true for those who are poor. Your wealth does not define what kind of person you are. Now, to one political party, it does, because the rich are evil, the rich are bad. But I promise you, you take a step back, common sense would tell you that how much money you have does not mean that you're going to go out there and try to steal somebody else's money. But when you're of the belief and when you're of the mindset that the only way that you can get rich is by screwing the little guy, that's how you then get to a place where you look at DOGE staffers and you say, well, obviously they're trying to steal my grandma's Social Security checks because they got rich by screwing everybody else, John.
We had to raise our standards, Pete. And no longer rail against millionaires, it's billionaires.
Thank you, Bernie. I
find that interesting. It's billionaires now, not millionaires.
Well, of course, inflation.
Because they're getting donations from and are of that class in and of themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
The top 1% is moving to the left very quickly. So now they've got to make it all about the billionaires. And it's really just about billionaires they don't like, right? That's the other thing.
Don't forget oligarchs.
Yes, they love George Soros, who owns, one of our competitor radio stations, 98.1 KMBZ. How's it going over there, Georgie? I'm glad we're here on KCMO 95.7. Set that preset on your radio dial right now and download the KCMO Talk Radio app. George Soros will not get any of your information when you have the KCMO Talk Radio app on your phone. I promise you that. So that's where you sit there and you say, okay, it's more of a mindset. It's not about what you're actually thinking. It's not about, the reality of the situation. It's just these are Elon Musk and his rich buddies. They must be bad inherently, and they're trying to steal from grandma. You know what they call your grandma's Social Security check in their checking account? They call that a rounding error. That's what they call it. Mike in Kansas City on KCMO. What's up, big guy?
Yeah, limit access to information. You limit access to all the dead people getting Social Security. It's that simple.
Well, yes, and
you
that's
find these radical fanatic judges, like the judge that did this. All that money goes to fund things like campaigns in Colorado that legalize mutilating children, things like that. These causes have less than 10% of support, but they get all this money. They're getting all this money from the fraudulent defunding of the masses from our taxes. And that's why they're all upset. All this stuff about sticking it to the rich is a diversion. They're upset they're losing all this dark money that they're stealing from the government, from you and me and all those other hardworking members of the masses.
Yeah. I still think that DOGE is going to be able to have, Mike, thank you, a lot of success. This might be a slight step back, but I'm all in. As you know, you know how I feel, right?
The issue is they're not whacking enough.
All right, that's how I feel. Not whacking enough. And they're going to get there. It might take a little bit more time, but I do believe they're going to get there. Now, speaking of money and finances and DOGE and everything else, Trump is not happy with Jerome Powell. He is the Fed chair. They have been going back and forth over the last few days. Trump is largely upset that Powell is not interested in reducing interest rates right now. He thinks that Powell should be cutting rates. That obviously would be good for people when it comes to, refinancing, loans, all those different things. It would just make life easier for people who right now find themselves in a lot of debt. It also would help maybe stimulate parts of the economy that need it. Powell says he's not budging at this point in time. So Trump was asked about Powell yesterday, and, well, in typical Trump fashion, he did not hold back when talking about Fed Chair Jerome Powell.
On Jerome Powell, you said that the termination of Jerome Powell cannot come fast enough. He says he won't leave even if you ask him to.
Oh, he'll leave. If I ask him to, he'll be out of there. But I don't think he's doing the job. He's too late, always too late, a little slow, and I'm not happy with him. I let him know it, and if I want him out, he'll be out of there real fast, believe me.
Sounds like The Apprentice. If I want him out, he'll be out real fast. Don't you worry, he's going to be gone before long. That was Trump yesterday talking about Jerome Powell. If I want him gone, he'll be gone. Now, reports are that his Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, is saying, hey, pump the brakes here. All right, let's not fire this guy just yet. That could lead to more market turmoil and upheaval. But Charlie Gasparino, Fox Business Network, he has been all over this story behind the scenes with his sources at the White House. He's on the Fox Business Network. He's a Mizzou guy as well, and he's going to join us at 7:05 to give us the latest and also talk about what this means for you, for the markets, everything else. So that's coming up at 7 o'clock on KCMO 95.7 FM. I never thought I'd see this, but The Atlantic, the far-left Atlantic publication, has this headline, Republicans are right about? I'll tell you the answer next. Look at this headline from The Atlantic. Can you believe this? The Atlantic, yes, that far-left operation online, they used to be a newspaper back in the heyday, but like so many, fell by the wayside. They wrote this piece this week, Republicans are right about soda.
Talk about a bombshell.
That's right. Didn't think I'd see it. Public health groups are tying themselves in knots over a GOP crackdown on the sugary drink. And the article goes on to basically note that Republicans right now, as part of the Make America Healthy Again movement, the MAHA movement, as some are calling it, are looking to basically limit things like buying soda with your food stamps. Now, this is a no-brainer. Soda is obviously a big reason that adults in the United States consume on average 2 to 3 times more than the daily recommended intake of sugar. The federal government's own research, as they write here, has shown that Americans who receive food stamps have worse diets than non-participants with similar incomes. And soda is obviously part of that problem. So even a publication like The Atlantic is admitting that on this issue, Republicans actually have a point. And listen, I'm trying to find things we can all agree on here. What's the case for why the government should fund unhealthy drinks for poor people? what does that do? Like, we're not talking about saying you can't buy food with your food stamps. We're not saying you can't buy drinks with your food stamps. But when you're talking about things that cause people to be diabetic, that do nothing, there's no positive to soda. I mean, I probably have 2 Diet Cokes a month, give or take. That's my soda intake, which John has by about 6:20 in the morning.
No, and when I have quit, though, I have been gone without it for a while. I don't know how you could do what you do, because isn't it such like drinking pancake syrup after a while to you?
No, I love a good Diet Coke, but I have probably one.
I find
when
I quit and then I pick one up again, I really don't like it and have to kind of choke it down, and then the habit renews itself.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah, so I wondered. I don't think I could do a couple of months. It's some or none.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. How about you, Mark? I've really never seen Mark drink soda, at least not here in the building.
I usually do when we go out.
Okay. What's your soda of choice?
Man, probably Dr. Pepper.
Regular or diet?
I go back and forth.
You go back and forth.
My dentist tells me to do diet because there's no sugar in it.
Yeah. Well, you already lost one tooth, Mark. We want to,
Right.
keep all your teeth intact there, buddy.
Yeah.
Of course, what breaks me of it is when the bill comes. I got charged $4.50 for one drink one time, just a soft drink. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Well, I'm with you there.
That'll break me.
Yeah.
That'll break me real quick.
That'll do it. Hopefully you got free refills at $4.50 a pop. My gosh.
Yeah, right.
That's crazy. So this article goes on the note that Republicans across the country are cracking down on soda. And the Atlantic piece notes that, Texas, Arkansas, West Virginia, Idaho, Nebraska, Michigan, Arizona, South Carolina are in position to potentially ban buying soda with food stamps. Now, Kansas and Missouri both had bills introduced on this issue. In Missouri, the most recent article I could find comes from early March, where a ban on use of food stamps for candy and soda was debated by Missouri lawmakers. Like most things in Jeff City, as far as I can tell, nothing happened with it. And same thing in Kansas. It looks like a bill was introduced trying to ban candy and soda purchases with food stamps. But once again, that article I found in Kansas goes back to early February. So I don't think anything's been done with this on either side of our state line. But there are other state legislatures that are going ahead and putting a ban on this. And they all should do it. Because what we want to do is try to lift people out of poverty, right? That's the purpose of any government welfare program. Try to provide a hand up, not a hand out. And if you get into a cycle in poverty where you're buying really unhealthy food and drinks, you're overweight to obese, that filters down to your children, it's harder to get out of that cycle. It's harder than it's ever been, right? We've created a system right now where it's too much government. And frankly, there's not enough definition of actually how to try to build people up and give them a hand up and not a hand out. And if we're creating a permanent underclass that's obese, that is eating unhealthy, that is just unhealthy in general, that then needs what? More medical care? That would be part of Medicaid. We're just adding to our own expense line. That's all we're doing here. We're not accomplishing what we want to accomplish, which is how do we help people get out of poverty? Now, some are calling Republicans hypocrites for this, right? Some are saying, hey, you guys 10 years ago were all about saying to Michael Bloomberg in New York City, take your hands off my big gulp there, chump. Well, that was more about a free market deal, right? That didn't involve government spending. That was about should the government tell an individual what size of a drink they should be allowed to purchase. Now, in hindsight, it was kind of goofy. I'll say that much for Republicans to make that Custer's last stand on the big gulp. It was kind of goofy. I mean, I think Bloomberg's heart was in the right place. And frankly, he was right about big gulps being just awful for you. But it was a different time in America. Bloomberg was on to something. If you want to mea culpa for me, fine. But it also is not an apples-to-apples comparison. Saying that somebody with their own money should not be able to buy a big gulp is different than saying, hey, if we are going to provide you government dollars, we should not be spending our government dollars on unnecessary and unhealthy food items that then only are going to cost us more in the long run when people are overweight, need medications, need to go see doctors, and God forbid, need medical treatment as a result. That also is going to cost the taxpayer in the form of Medicaid. It's not exactly apples to apples here, but it's something that every legislature should be looking at. And it doesn't look like there was any movement on either side of our state line on this thing in Kansas or Missouri, but hopefully next year's the year. It's a no-brainer. What we need is a focus on this. We need people saying, hey, being healthy is a big part of the battle here. It's a big part of getting yourself and your family on the right track and feeling like, hey, I've got a future. I can hand it down to the next generation instead of saying, I'm overweight, I'm diabetic, I'm drinking soda, I need food stamps, I need, the government's medical attention as well. That's a mess waiting to happen, and it only snowballs, John.
What if soda pop, Coke, people are calling here saying, don't call it soda. We call it pop, I guess. Anyway, what if that becomes the new cigarettes? Can you see a time where we move forward and say, you know what?
Big taxes?
Yeah, well, old people still do it, but younger generation just doesn't. And
Yeah.
It just kind of fades out, and it's like my Dr. Pepper gets stamped with the surgeon's, warning and all kinds of stuff.
Well, I would say this much. I could see that day coming, but also think about this. How many different seltzers are out there and soda/pop alternatives are out there as well? I mean, there's a lot of
drink
stuff.
Things, you mean like that? Stuff like that?
Just
There's
seltzers.
juices and, okay, sure.
There are now, I mean, I just see them in my house. I don't know what any of them are anymore. But they're basically just 0-calorie seltzers. They don't have a lot of additives, if any at all. And they give you that fizzle and that pop that you want from a soda without being a soda, without the sugar and everything else that's in a soda. Exactly.
Like flavored water.
Yeah, exactly. Right. There's a lot of that out there right now. There are more options than ever. Now, is a 2-liter bottle of Dr. Pepper going to one day cost $15 like a pack of cigarettes? Probably not. Probably not.
That's the original energy drink.
Yeah, exactly. That's how John got started.
10, 2, and 4.
How long you been drinking all that Dr. Pepper? 40 years?
Oh, no. I used to drink Pepsi all the time, but I even drank it as a kid, so I'm a bad case study. Or maybe I should be studying and donate my body to science and go, okay, here's a boomer that had pop since he was a kid. Yeah. You're probably right. My kids didn't drink it as much. We didn't get it for them, and I didn't drink it, and they're okay with that, too. They don't drink it so much.
Yeah. Well, maybe we will send your body in for a case study when all is said and done here, John.
It'll have a return to sender.
And if you didn't hear Guy Benson yesterday, he is really looking forward to coming to Kansas City on June 12th. He will be here for a meet and greet event and a show. Will be at Boulevard in their suite, and tickets are going fast. They are on sale now at KCMOTalkRadio.com. We got them out to the Yankees game. We're getting them out to the Yankees-Royals game the night before on June 11th. Just happened to work out that way. And then we'll do a big event with our listeners, and you can buy your tickets now at KCMOTalkRadio.com, or a table. If you want a table, well, those are available too, and you get a discount when you buy the whole table. So yesterday we had a big conversation about RFK Jr. and his announcement from Wednesday when he said, you know what, it's time for us to investigate why these autism rates are skyrocketing over the last generation. And I'm all about it. I don't know why you wouldn't be on board with this, even if you didn't vote for Trump. There's nothing about this that I think is political. The only way it's political is if you work backwards on this. If you're RFK and you say, hey, I want the answer to be some vaccine that's causing autism, and you work your way backwards. He's not going to do that, though. He said it last night on Fox. This is not going to be start with the conclusion and work back from there. Like, the COVIDians did 5 years ago, where they had their conclusion and they justified their conclusion working backwards on things like the shot and masks and everything else. 6 feet of social distancing, all that, nonsensical BS that we now know, they worked backwards on. The only way you could criticize RFK is if you said he's got an agenda, he wants to find conclusion X, and he's going to work backwards from X. But he said last night on Fox that's not how he wants this to go.
President Trump asked me to find out what's causing it.
And I'm approaching that agnostically. We are looking at everything we're going to do. We're going to be very transparent in how we design the studies. We're going to farm the studies out to 15 premier research groups from all over the country. And we're going to be transparent about our protocols, about the data sets, and then every study will have to be replicated. We're going to look at mold. We're going to look at the age of parents. We're going to look at food and food additives. We're going to look at pesticides and toxic exposures. We're going to look at medicines. We're going to look at vaccines. We're going to look at everything.
That's exactly how you want any medical study to go. Yeah, put vaccines in there, but also mold, age of parents. We know that the age of parents obviously has gone up tremendously over the last generation. People are having fewer kids. And when they're having fewer kids, they're also having kids at an older age. Food, additives, pesticides, study all of it. I don't care what the answer is. No one should care. That's the thing about science. It's always evolving. There is no settled science, despite what Fauci told us, 5 years ago. Science is never settled. It's always changing. And if you go into this transparently with an open mind, agnostically, that's what you want your political leaders to do on something like this. And I hope they find the answer sooner than later, because, man, do we need it. Take a deep breath with me. Take a step back, and let's use a little bit of common sense here together, shall we? 8:05, good morning. Glad you're here on KCMO Talk Radio. It is obviously an extra Good Friday as well. And we're glad you're making this morning part of your day. Whether you're traveling for the Easter holiday weekend on the KCMO Talk Radio app, if you missed some of the show, it's always up on the podcast as well. Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. When we're done here at 10 o'clock, when Kevin Keatsman Uncanceled comes up. So Fox 4 did a piece last night that I just thought was beyond bizarre. And not because they were trying to dig into a story that might be legitimate, but because I didn't think some obvious questions were being asked. So the headline read, NOAA funding cuts erasing years of weather data for experts. NOAA is the National Center for, or the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. The big weather honchos in the country. And I'll play some of the package for you. And then I just want to, take the hysteria out of it, take the political feelings out of it, try to take Elon and DOGE out of it, if you can do that, if you're capable, and just ask some very obvious questions here.
Critical and historical weather data now is mostly unavailable.
What was the weather 20 years ago on this date? We don't know anymore.
There are 6 regional climate centers in the United States managed by NOAA's National Center for Environmental Information.
Because we've always relied on NOAA from their official observation sites.
Kansas is covered by the High Plains Regional Climate Center. You see here, its website says funding for the Regional Climate Center program lapsed on April 17th due to a suspension of federal funding from NOAA through the Department of Commerce.
The only climate center that has not lapsed their contract yet is the Northeast Climate Center.
Theirs, though, is set to expire in June.
I'm going to manually copy all of this information from the 150 years of weather data that we have in Kansas City into an Excel sheet here at Fox 4.
Fox 4 meteorologist Jacob Lanier sifting through and saving Kansas City weather records.
My worry is the longer that this goes lapsed, the more likely it is that we lose that data forever. And that's unrecoverable. That's 150 years of science. You're starting over.
Well, let's all say a prayer for the weather guy who's got to copy data into an Excel spreadsheet. All right. Moment of silence, please, for the weatherman who has to copy data into an Excel spreadsheet. Just brief moment of silence for him, please. Okay, hold on. All right, back to the show. Gonna make it.
He's the only one that does that. He could sell that and make some money. I
guess no one's ever thought of that. Copying data into an Excel spreadsheet, John. There's a first.
I got me one of them Googles.
Yeah.
So I just typed in 20 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, you found it.
April 2005 ranked as the 32nd warmest April.
Oh. There you
in
go.
the 1895 to present record.
Whoa.
I don't know. I've got the back way around the interweb here.
Yeah.
Apparently. I'm on the dark web here with this 20-year-old weather forecast.
If Boomer John can figure it out, I think.
Yeah, there you go.
I think the kids will be able to be.
Grandpa can get it.
So you heard the hysteria of DOGE funding was impacting the High Plains Regional Climate Center that provides some of this historical data to Colorado, Kansas, Nebraska, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Wyoming. And, of course, the Midwestern Regional Climate Center serves Missouri and a bunch of other states to the east and north from there. And they say that, these funds for these climate centers lapsed yesterday due to a suspension of federal funding from NOAA through the Department of Commerce. Now, maybe that's true, but I think my immediate thought here as I'm going through this story is, if the funding stopped, why would all the data just disappear? If the data is just in a database or on a website and you stopped funding, why would all the data just go away? Right? Like, the data is stored somewhere. The work's been done. If someone gets fired at a job and they spent years, putting together information for a company, their work doesn't go away with them. They may have lost a job. Their job may have been cut, but any work that they've done, still exists somewhere. This notion that, decades and decades of weather data just goes away because a portion of NOAA may not be funded under the Department of Commerce, it doesn't make common sense to me. And if there is a reason for that, that is what you cover in the news. Not like, let's put the sob story weatherman on there. Oh, my gosh, I'm copying data into an Excel spreadsheet. Woe is me. Oh, gosh, I got to pat myself on the back now. You guys should see me copy and paste this data into the Excel doc. Woo, boy, there's heroes and then there's weathermen copying information into Excel spreadsheets. I'll tell you, John.
I was with you. It's like, where does the information go? Lord knows I've got half a dozen friends who are deceased. I keep getting their birthday things on Facebook, so certainly Meta could use the help, apparently.
Yeah.
Getting rid of data that's supposed to disappear.
Yeah. Hey, maybe they could store it somewhere for them.
Yeah.
I'm listening to this, and I'm like, the minute you remove the emotion, it just doesn't make sense. And I'm not sitting here pretending to be the NOAA expert, but I know this much. The decades of data does not go away, should not go away, unless NOAA or someone inside of NOAA or somebody's inside of NOAA are basically trying to prove a point. So they're going to shut down the website and they're going to not allow weather guys in Kansas City and gals in Kansas City to access this stuff. And then it's like, well, then we've got a problem inside of the bureaucracy. Then we've got bureaucrats who are trying to make life more difficult for everyday weathermen and weatherwomen who are just trying to do their jobs by proving, see, we're going to prove how important we can be. It's like, no. Then we've got rogue employees in the federal government who need to be blown out. And that's why Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary, is spot on when he analyzes DOGE.
The issue is they're not whacking enough.
They're not, man. Let's go to Randy. What's up, Randy? You're on KCMO.
Hey, I think I've solved the entire issue with what's going on. The same people that have complained, and I know multiple people, older, younger, everything, complain about the government and all the wasteful and the politics and all this kind of stuff. And then you turn around and arrest them and they complain. I think we've got a giant case of Patty Hearst syndrome going on in our country. Because they are literally sympathetic to their captors.
Oh, gosh. That's good. That's good. Well done there. Well done there, Randy. Jonathan's in Kansas City. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Hey, I'm kind of curious as to the reason, too, Pete. If I could speculate, maybe a possible reason. I know with a lot of these public agencies, like I know the state of Kansas, their Secretary of State or their DMV, paid a huge contract for their web, their digital space and stuff. So maybe the government, that agency, has a huge contract with a webmaster, and they have to pay a monthly fee to maintain that website and to keep it up and host it and all that. So maybe when the funding lapsed, they stopped paying the webmaster, and the webmaster would take the website down and all the data on that website. That's possible, and I wouldn't be surprised if they set up a bloated IT contract that way. I know, isn't that what they were investigating? The state auditor, they were investigating Hickman Mill School District for that bloated IT contract. So I wouldn't be surprised if they had a deal like that with the NOAA agency.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, listen, as someone who has side businesses owning websites, you can renew on GoDaddy for like $12.99 a month on a yearly basis. So it just doesn't make sense that the whole website and all the data goes away because they defund a couple of sectors of NOAA. On the text line, 913-408-7957. Pete, tell the meteorologist there's usually an option to export to Excel. That's well done. And how about this text coming through? This is on my personal phone. Just saw this pop up, and I said, I got to look at this one on the air. Our good buddy Mike Thompson, meteorologist himself, of course, for years. Now he's rocking it in the Kansas State Senate. Says, Pete, NOAA's been lying for years. You're correct. The data is there. NOAA needs to be spanked big time, he says. Let's go.
People are aroused. I haven't seen people so aroused in a very, very long time.
A little spanking of NOAA. That'll get some people aroused. I'm not going to go that far. But you know what? If that's your thing, it's fine by me. I like it. I haven't seen something this rigged since the 1985 NBA draft. As the conspiracy theories go, Patrick Ewing was all set to go to the New York Knicks because, well, the NBA wanted the Knicks to be good. Ewing was the star of college basketball. And there still is a conspiracy 40 years later that the NBA rigged the 1985 draft in favor of the New York Knicks. Well, fast forward 40 years, and we may have a rigging of our own here in Kansas City. And that rigging ties to who is going to be the next city manager. The mayor announced yesterday there are 3 finalists in Kansas City for the city manager position after Brian Platt was fired in the last few weeks. And those finalists are 3 people most of us don't know, but that's not the point. The finalists are acting city manager Kimiko Gilmore, assistant city manager Mario Vasquez, and Pat Klein, a former assistant city manager who retired 2 years ago after overseeing construction of the new airport terminal. So it's kind of a perfect DEI finalist where you've got a black female, a Latino male, and then a white guy. So it kind of, you check off those boxes when you're trying to play that game, right? You kind of have 3 different backgrounds, 3 different folks, 2 males, 1 female, the whole thing. Kimiko Gilmore is going to get the job. She's been the acting person since Platt was put on leave and then fired. And I don't know if she's the best person for the job. I hope that she is. I don't know her. I don't have an opinion on who should get the job. I don't care, frankly, who gets the job. I want the best person to get the job. But you know and I know she is getting the job. And it ties back to the frustration of some on the city council from 5.5 years ago when Brian Platt got the job. It was in late 2020 when Brian Platt came from Jersey City, New Jersey, and became the Kansas City, Missouri city manager. And it was at that time that urban leaders and city council members expressed frustration. There's an email that I've shared with you on the show dated October 31st of 2020 that went from Councilwoman Melissa Robinson, 3rd District, east side of Kansas City, and said to Mayor Quentin Lucas in an email, "What happened to your commitment to seeing a black female city manager? That was a public commitment, and there was no reflection of that commitment. Going from that statement to choosing a white male is unconscionable," she wrote at the time in an email. Besides the fact that putting that in an email is one of the dumber things you could do for a multitude of reasons. Even thinking that is just as bad. Saying, I'm upset with the person who got the job because of their skin color. It wasn't like, hey, Brian Platt's not qualified and we should have hired so-and-so who happened to be a black female, right? Brian Platt's a white guy, but that's not the point. He wasn't qualified because of A, B, and C. We should have hired this person, black female, because of X, Y, and Z. That's not what was said here in this email. It was literally, you hired a white guy, that's unconscionable. You know, we used to call that like racism. And if you know and I know, the shoe had been on the other foot and some white council member had said it's unconscionable that you hired a black person for this job, you know what? They'd be ripped. And they should be ripped, by the way, because that is unconscionable. It is unconscionable to suggest that somebody should not have a position at any level of government or in any company because of their skin color. And I know I'm not the only media person in town who has this email. The Kansas City Star has this email. They didn't do jack with it. You know why, and I know why. Meantime, if that had cut the other way, the Star would have had editorials going on 30 days running. Every day they'd run a new editorial on this very story. They wouldn't stop. This would be the most egregious thing in Kansas City history. And yeah, it's bad, but they would have blown this thing so far out of proportion. They would be headline news every day in that paper, John, or whatever's left of it.
Yeah, like the Carmelo Anthony situation in Texas, it's the right combination here for critiquing. There's only there's only one magic combination because you can change them all around and only one gets you the big prize.
Yep. And here's where this is actually a disservice to Kimiko Gilmore. And this is where DEI is actually wildly unfair and irresponsible, frankly, to minorities. It makes some people think that you got a job because of who you are, not because of your accomplishments. And that is inherently unfair to Ms. Gilmore. She may be the best person for the job. I don't know. I don't really know anything about her qualifications versus the other people she's up against. But now there's going to be this backdrop of, well, did she get the job because? And that's not fair to her. That's where, when you enter race into the picture, even if it's under the guise of like, well, I want to help uplift people, all you do by not having a meritocracy is have this thought in the back of other people's minds of, oh, is this person only here because of, right? And that's the wrong attitude for all of us to have. But it's also become kind of this thing now over the last half decade as the DEI movement has obviously taken off, and it's calmed down a little bit, thankfully, over the last couple of years or so, but it's still wildly prevalent. And it hurts these people. So my prediction is Kimiko Gilmore is going to get the job because, you know, they got their scalp with Brian Platt. And you go back 5 years ago, and you have people on the city council who said, you know what, Brian Platt should not have gotten it because of his skin color. And now she's the acting director. They're not going to take it away from her and give it to Pat Klein. They're just not going to do that.
The white roads and bridges guy.
Yeah.
From Clay County, it says.
Oh, is that what they called him?
Well, no, he was the previously interim roads and bridge director for Clay County after he retired from the airport.
Yeah, he's toast. Yeah, he's got no shot.
That's what we wanted, though, the roads and bridge guy.
Yeah, that's you know, to me, that's kind of what matters here in this job. That's what a city manager is all about. But if Kimiko Gilmore gets it, I'm going to be happy for her. But it's sad that there's going to be this like underlying theme of, well, did race play a factor? And that's unfair to her.